have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Real Estate Realities with the Rebel Broker. My name's Robert Whitelaw, and I am the Rebel Broker, licensed real estate broker in the state of California, member of the National Association of Realtors. But please, don't hold that against me. As always, the hope is that you're finishing off your week on a high note. I know that can be tough sometimes. It's been a tough week for me, folks, I'll tell you that. We're going to cover a very specific topic today. It's actually a listener requested topic. It specifically goes out to Danny. Assuming this is the same Danny M that has been around since, I'm not even sure how far back. I did a quick search, and I have been getting emails from Danny since at least the first half of 2009. So I figure with that much time invested, Danny deserves a show for himself. So that's today's show, which is, and I realize this is a little bit directed, right? This is going to be suggestions from me. If you want to become a real estate agent, how to select your broker, that kind of a thing. I mean, this is going all the way back to the days when I actually did two podcasts. I did this one, Real Estate Realities, which was the first one. And I did a second show called Being the Better Agent. In fact, I still own the URL. Better Agent, thebetteragent.com or Being the Better Agent or something like that. Anyway, I still own it. It still points to my stuff, which was supposed to be really aimed right between the eyes of real estate agents. Because my philosophy was you can be doing this better. You can make a perfectly reasonable living without being a normal real estate agent. So let's get a little background, because this is what blows me away. I have a pretty good chunk of you folks that have been around forever. And assuming this is the same Danny, it's the same first and last name. I don't want to give out his last name because he didn't give me permission to do so. His email has evolved once. I think it changed in 2017. It looks like it changed from a Gmail account to a personalized account. But in any event, I have got a core set of folks. Danny's one of many who have been around forever, and you guys are awesome. I've had some of the best conversations with my audience. I very rarely get completely lunatic people. Literally, it's like once in a blue moon. I mean, we're talking in some cases years between just ridiculously crazy conversations with folks who seem completely disconnected from reality. But anyway, back to the point. The point here, sorry, shiny things, tall weeds. Those are my things. I apologize. I started in real estate. I got licensed first in 1988, and it didn't take too many years. And I became, because that's the way they train you, to be a typical agent. I was motivating myself by the things that training suggested I should motivate myself by, without really focusing on the quality product that I was giving to people through my services. The only thing that saved me, really, was that I had my grandfather who went into real estate right after World War II and kept on being active right up until the late 80s. I missed him by just a year or two. It would have been freaking amazing to work with my grandfather. I would have loved to do that. The timing just didn't work. Man, yeah, in terms of just, like, you know, you talk about who was the one person ever you'd love to have like a meal with, just have a conversation with them. I would have loved working with my grandfather. Now, I got a chance to do an awful lot of real estate things with my grandfather before he retired, but never really work with him. It was always sort of follow him and see how he did things and treated people. And that was what initially informed my ethic of real estate. And so much of that was in contrast to what was being taught when I got out. And when I first got out, I was probably a pretty typical agent. I joined one of the big national brands. I worked with them for a few years. Then I went to another national brand. Then I went to an independent brand. So I've had a lot of different experiences in terms of the type of offices I work for. And I've done it all the way through. And for a good chunk of time there in the mid to late 90s, I hung my license with a very no-name brokerage office just to hang it. Came back in early 2000s with a big local name. So I feel like as a real estate agent and a broker, I've run the gambit of the different ways that someone can do real estate. And the predominant rule has been that most agents focus on the things that I don't consider to be the things you should focus on. A really good example is I'm getting tons of folks reaching out to me, and it's great to be interviewed on the show. And you guys get to hear those interviews, but what you don't get is an understanding of the folks I turn down. I frequently will get real estate agents who want to be interviewed on the show, and I am not against that. But the one interesting thing is they clearly have not listened to many shows, because they'll pitch me on the number of transactions they close in a year. I just got a message from one agent who closes up near 400 deals a year. Or I guess almost, I think the crux of the message was they close 400 listed homes. So they list 400 homes a year, and they do something like 700 sides with a team of 14. And that's all built around one agent. And I'm sorry, maybe you're managing to do it, but the odds are each individual you're representing is not getting the individual attention that they deserve. They're getting boilerplate real estate. And the reality is that kind of real estate is what will be automated first. Not sure where that leaves the industry, but if you're doing that many transactions, I am sorry, you simply cannot be informed enough on the individual issues facing each one of those transactions to know what's going on. And each one of the folks you're working with, it's your name that's on there. When you list it, it's your name. It's not the 15 assistants you have. It's you. And I'll tell you what, as someone who might list my house with someone like that, the idea that I would call and I might get one of 15 different people answering the phone over the course of my entire listing, and no one person is going to know the details, and I'm getting put on hold as people look things up. I'm sorry. That would piss me off to no end. Okay. And maybe they're not doing it that way. Maybe there really is just one person who always answers the phone, but then it seems to me you're going to get going to voicemail an awful lot if you're handling that much business at one time. Now, you as a broker, if that's one thing, right? But if people are hiring you, if people think they're hiring you to do a job for them, and that's what's going on, there's a disconnect there. And the other thing that they specifically brought up in their pitch on why I should interview them, the exact two reasons I've told you to not hire a real estate agent. One, they put themselves on the top, and this was exactly what they did for their specific franchise. They said they were ranking in the top 3 nationally based on gross sales and total volume of transactions closed. Two things that should mean absolutely nothing to you as a buyer or seller. Neither one of those things tells you have a good agent. Okay. And again, here we are. I am in the shiny things, because what I'm supposed to be talking about is if you want to become an agent, and becoming an agent needs to be a very careful decision for you. There's tax implications. If you're someone who is doing this because you want to invest in real estate and you think it would be awesome to be able to pocket that 3% or 2.5% or 2% or whatever they're offering the side you'd be on so you can represent yourself, definitely consult with an attorney first, a tax attorney, someone who knows these real estate things specifically as they may apply to your state, and then, of course, nationally. But there's a bunch of different disadvantages to that, not just from potential tax purposes, but then also from any litigation standpoint, at least in California, and I'm pretty sure this is true nationally, you would be considered always at the advantage. So if ever there's a dispute And under normal circumstances, it would to a legal mind, things would be equal, meaning, well, it's a tough call because there was reasonable stuff on both sides. As soon as someone finds out you have a real estate license, you are assumed to have the edge on the other party. So whenever there's room for balance in a potential judgment, you lose out because it's assumed you know more. You're an expert because you're licensed. So always consider that before you get your license. I get tons of folks who reach out to me who got their license because they wanted to be an investor because of the financial benefits of it. But make sure to be aware of the legal issues before you jump into that. So that's number one, whether or not you want to get your real estate license at all. Because I think that in the long run, it might make more sense for you to enter into a strategic relationship with an agent where they kick back to you a certain percentage of their commission, right? If you're out there diddy bopping and doing your thing as the investor and you're really doing most of the legwork, maybe they have a search up set up for you and they're not really showing you these homes. You're just kind of driving around and checking them out. And then once you find one that sounds really good, maybe they're getting you into those. And you're going to be able to provide a steady stream of deals to this agent you're working with. There's nothing unreasonable about saying, hey, here's the deal. I just don't want to be considered an expert. I want to be able to claim the same status as the other person on the other side of the transaction who's also likely to not be licensed. So there you go. And I'm willing to do this, but you need to cough up X percent of your commission. Now, what would be a good X for that, a good percentage? Well, all agents have pretty much been groomed to be willing to accept a 25% referral fee. They can go, and I've seen these go up to as high as 50%. But if you approach an agent and say, listen, you need to be able to be willing to cough up 25% of your commission, the gross commission that this person's going to get. So, and let's define the difference there. In most states, and in some states this isn't true, but in most states there's a relationship, there's a broker-agent relationship, and that's actually as we get further into the show, that's more the topic we're talking about, agents picking their brokers, which means that when a transaction happens, and let's go with what is the typical. Of course, this is always negotiable, so these numbers may shift a bit one way or another, but you as a agent on one side of the transaction. Now, let's say someone gets a listing that's a 6% commission listing, which means 3% will go to the agent who's representing the seller and 3% will go to the person representing the buyer. What you would want as the buyer who's working with an agent, the investor buyer working with an agent, you'd want 25% of that 3%. Make sure you're not signing a document that says you're going to get 25% of whatever your agent gets after they're split with the brokerage office. Okay? Because that's how they're going to try to write it up. Because what's probably happening without you realizing it is your agent doesn't get that 3%. The agent's brokerage firm gets the 3%. The brokerage firm takes some percentage, and then the agent gets whatever's left over. So what you want is to be able to lay claim to 25% of that 3% before it gets split between the broker and the agent. Does that make sense? I feel like I've just spoken in a pretzel shape, and I don't want to leave anyone confused. If you are confused, reach out to me. I think I've made it as clear as I think I can, right? It's a pie. The 6% commission is a pie. You cut it in half. One half of it goes away to the others, to whatever the other side is. If you're the seller, it goes to the buyer side. If you're the seller, it goes to the buyer side. And then you want to get your cut of that pie before it gets split between your agent's broker and your agent, right? So, and a document will need to be written up to this effect, and your agent's broker will have to sign it. So make sure you not only get the consent of the agent you're working with, but the consent of the broker that is who your agent works under. An agent, a real estate agent, at least in the state of California and most states, cannot simply say, I am a real estate agent, I work for myself. They must work under a person who holds a real estate broker's license. Okay. Some states don't have real estate agents. They just have one license. And if you're licensed in that state, you are fully welcome to simply work for yourself and hang up your own shingle and do all that kind of stuff. All right. So I just wanted to lay that out because the first question you want to ask as an investor is, do I want to be an agent? And I think for a lot of folks, the answer is going to be no. I'd rather not. I'd rather have this ability to simply say, I'm just a guy out here doing things. Now, There's all sorts of other laws that you're going to want to ask lawyers about, like, well, what happens if I get categorized as a dealer in real estate, et cetera? Ask those questions. I'm not going to answer those here. I think it's going to depend on your situation. All right, so let's say that you have decided to become a real estate agent. If it's the same across the country, you're going to be required to take some courses, 1 to 4 courses most likely, prior to taking the exam for your state, which will cover local, state, and national stuff. The national stuff obviously doesn't change that much from state to state, but the local stuff clearly will change. 95% of what you will learn, you will never use again. That just seems to be the way it goes. However, all things you absolutely should know in terms of things relating to contracts and that type of stuff, fair housing, a lot of those things that need to be part of the education that you need to know. But a lot of things like meets and bounds in California, how to calculate various things based off of plot maps and things are things you're generally never going to have to fuss with. So get through that. And once you are licensed, now you need to pick a brokerage firm. And that was really at the crux of Danny's question. We're going to take a quick break. And after that, we're going to talk about how to pick your broker. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Are you ready to jump in and start your search for your first investment property? Maybe you've decided that it's time to own your own home, or maybe you're ready to sell your home and move on to something new. No matter what your goal is, the Rebel Broker can help. That's right, aside from hosting this show, I am also the owner-broker of Whitelaw & Sons Real Estate Services right here in Silicon Valley. With over 25 years experience serving Silicon Valley, Morgan Hill, San Martin, and Gilroy, I or one of my great agents can help you achieve your goals in real estate. So if you're ready to look into taking that next step towards achieving your real estate goals, point your browser at www.soldbyrobert.com. That's www.soldbyrobert.com and get in touch. Let me show you how I will earn your business and your respect. Again, that's www.soldbyrobert.com, or you can call me at 408-852-0525. California Bureau of Real Estate ID 00984-909.
Welcome back, everyone. Kind of a real estate agent focused show today, I guess. Yeah, it is. I guess it is. Not just focusing on whether or not you should get your license at all if you want to be an investor, but also once you do become a real estate agent, what should you do? And in terms of picking your broker, as I mentioned before, for most of you, you are in a state where when you get your real estate license, in order for you to do real estate and have it be legal, you have to have your license hanging under a brokerage license, meaning you have to find a licensed broker in your state. That broker has to make you part of their brokerage firm, and then you work from there. So that's basically what's happening, right? So all the agents that work for Century 21 or whoever else, they work for the broker, and that's why so many all the advertisements you'll see say that it's owner operated, that type of stuff. Well, the owner operated, locally owner operated, is because there's a broker who is the broker of record for that office, and you basically just hang your license up there. When you are doing this, your goals need to be really well understood in order for you to decide what you're going to do about the brokerage thing. If you are someone who is really just interested in doing your own business, cheaper is better. There are various grades of broker, but here's the other thing, and this may change across the country. This may vary. I have, aside from my own office, I have never worked for an office that delivered on the referral promise. And I've worked for some really big name offices. I put myself into the thing where I'm supposed to get referrals, and they just never came. Now, granted, I have been an independent now. I've been a broker on my own since the early 2000s. So with the advancements of much more digital marketing and all these other kinds of things, maybe that is more of a thing. But I've never, ever in my life, in my entire career, gotten a referral from my broker in terms of having a transaction. Now, Now, in my office, when I was doing much more aggressive marketing, I was getting a dozen leads a week, and I had an automated system that would do a round robin and give them to my agents who worked under me. So each one of my agents was getting 3 to 6 referrals a week. Cost me a ton of money and didn't end up being as cost effective as it should have been. But in any event, if a brokerage firm, if that's your thing, if one of the reasons you want to hang your license with a brokerage is to get referrals, to potentially get business, then you need to get proof of that. You need them to prove it to you, or in writing, commit to a certain number of referrals. Now, here's the thing: no referrals are free. If you have a brokerage that will, in writing, promise you referrals, they will be charging you some amount of money in the form of a desk fee or some other monthly fee. And there's going to be a nice long list of fees. There's likely going to be, for the whole downturn, right? When real estate really hit rock bottom, the offices that survived were the ones that charged desk fees, because that's how they were surviving. They were no longer surviving because their agents were doing well. They were surviving because their agents were stupid enough to pay their desk fees. And that's how so many of them survived. Now, I am anti-desk fees. I think desk fees are absolutely idiotic in terms, they're totally smart for a broker if they can find an agent dumb enough to pay the desk fees. And this is speaking as someone who did pay desk fees for 1 year. So I've had my turn at being the stupid agent who pays desk fees. Even dumber, I paid desk fees to an office while I was a licensed broker. So go figure out how dumb that is. And my logic at the time was, I'm new to this specific market. I want to go with, and I did a little research. The research I did was which office was closing the highest number of transactions per agent. So that's data you'll want to look at if you're shopping around, right? If you want to go work for Office X or Office Y, don't just look at how many transactions they're closing. If one office has 100 agents in it and they're closing 100 transactions, well, that's pretty good. It's a 1-to-1 relationship. But if another office has only 50 transactions they're closing per month, but they only have 25 agents licensed in that office, well, that's 2 per agent, right? So if there is any kind, and now of course that could also mean you have 2 agents that are doing a ton of business and the rest of them are doing none, and that's a possibility. But do that kind of processing if you want to pay that premium. But also understand that you need to upfront get a full list of all the things they plan to charge you for. Because in addition to charging you a desk fee, now I think there was 3 or 4 fixed fees that I was charged by the syndicated office that I was a part of, the franchise office I was part of. There was a desk fee, and that was something like $300 and something a month. There was a technology fee there, and there was some other bizarre fee. Now, in my negotiations, I got most of that negotiated down. I think when everything was said and done, I was paying them $220 a month. But in addition to that, they get a percentage of my transactions. Almost everyone is going to suggest up front, unless you have a proven sales record that's indicates they should do it, they're going to start you off at a 75-25% split. I'm okay with a 75-25% split, but not when it's linked with desk fees. I will not charge my agents desk fees, and I will not pay I would never pay a desk fee again. And this whole scenario should only apply to you if you are someone who is going to do the day-to-day business of real estate. Now, let me lay out some reality here for you, because you're going to get told a lot of things. Number one, you will be oversold on the value that is brought by working for a big office. The attractiveness of a large office has really dwindled over the last 20, 30 years, simply because all the things that used to be brought to the table by a large office, like an exclusive referral system, and if someone wanted to move from St. Louis to San Jose, well, unless they were getting themselves copies of the local papers in San Jose, they really couldn't find listings for homes, right? Now, with the internet, all of the things that used to be the value add of a large franchise just aren't there anymore. You as an individual can reach out to more eyeballs than the biggest, most enormous franchise in the world. It's just a question of you doing it. So and they'll sell you on this idea that they've gotten partnerships with all of these various vendors, and that may well be true, but you can get those partnerships too. Don't think that just because they list a dozen different places where their listings get syndicated or their advertising gets syndicated that you can't do the exact same thing. Anybody within the sound of my voice who has ever gotten onto Facebook, Google, Trulia, or Yahoo, or tons of other platforms have probably seen my face. I do an AdWorks ad that's aimed specifically at my zip code, and I will randomly show up on all of those different websites more often than Century 21 or Prudential or Homes and Gardens or any other offices. So you as small offices can absolutely get this done. Okay, so that's myth number one. The other myth is that you need a place to meet clients, to have a conference room, those types of things. When I first opened my brokerage, I rented myself a shared space. That came with an office and then that had several shared conference rooms, and it was not a horrible expense. But what I found was that I rented the thing, and for 18 months I walked into that office twice. Neither one of those times was it because I needed to meet a client there. In today's world, at least in my market, that's not where clients want to meet. Clients want to meet you at the Starbucks, or clients want to meet you at the first house you're going to show them, or clients want to meet you at the house they want you to list. So over the course of my career, I have met in conference rooms. But remember, my career extends all the way back to 1988. And I can remember, and this also extends back to the days when a conference room was important, because oftentimes when you'd have multiple offer scenarios, they'd make you all go to the office, wait in a waiting room to present your office to the sellers. If we exclude all of those from the early 90s and late 80s, in that remaining 20-year period of time, I may have used a conference room 3 times, maybe 4. So it's just not a huge thing. Now, culturally, you may live in a marketplace where that's very different, where folks in, Knoxville, Tennessee, expect to go meet you at your conference room. Maybe that's a thing. Well, okay, then maybe you as an individual, not even for your office, because here's the thing, right? A desk fee. Let's get back to it. If it were me and I was starting out from zero, I would find the absolute cheapest brokerage I could possibly find. And what that will probably equal is an office that just takes a percentage of what business you do. And this is going to depend on how much support you need to get from that office. If you need their photocopier, if you need access to their stuff, if you feel like you need more hands-on stuff, and to be honest with you, I never got much hands-on stuff from any brokerage I ever worked from. But if you feel self-sufficient, if the technology in your office at home is better than the technology that's available in your real estate office, which has always been true of me, but I'm a geek, so there's that, then there is no value add on the part of your broker. And you should in your head be thinking, I am paying for this. So let's equate that to the desk fee, right? There is no way I would pay an office a desk fee. Now, the average desk fee I see here in my local area is $300 to $450. Okay, let's take that as a number for a place to sit. Now, what do you get for that $300 to $450 fee? Well, you get a random desk. And by random, I don't mean you get a random desk, it's assigned to you and you keep it forever. I mean, odds are, as the new arrival in the office, you're relegated to the farm seating, which means when you walk into the office, there's a segment of the office that's farm seating, which means when you walk in, you just pick the desk that isn't occupied by someone. You don't get your name on it. It's not personalized for you. It's not what you get to go to all the time. You just get to randomly pick an office whenever you're going to use one, right? You're not going to get an office with a door. You're going to get, again, farm-style seating. Well, why in the world would you do that when you can go and rent an office with a door and windows and get access to your own conference room for less than that? The last time I looked, I could rent a 300 square foot office space for $300 a month. And that included the office, and I didn't have to pay electrical. I didn't have to pay any of that stuff. That was all included in the $300. Plus, I got access to a conference room. So why in the world would you do that? Because then you can actually get your own signage. Part of that deal would be you get to use the sign out in front of this building where you're paying for one of the offices to put up your own signage for you specifically. And always remember that you need to be able to take your identity with you. Right. So let's right off the bat understand that everything that the brokerage firm is going to be asking from you is negotiable. So you should walk in, and if they're asking for all kinds of stuff in terms of fees per month, you should reject every monthly fee. Or if they do have monthly fees for stuff, for things you actually want to consume, that you actually want to make use of, great. Figure out how you could provide that very same functionality yourself outside of the thing they're charging you for, and see if they're offering you a good deal. Odds are they are not. Now, a good technological example of that would be how they handle your listings, creating a listing page specifically for the properties you list. Well, go get a subscription at something like Reesio, REESIO.com. Take a look at what they offer. That offers not only a specialized page just for your listing, but then will also, in a secured way, manage the relationship between you, your clients, title, lenders, everything, then have a central repository for documents that's secured, and at a hell of a lot cheaper of a rate than what your office is likely going to charge you for. So be aware you're paying for a product, understand that product, and look at alternatives to providing that product. And the other thing you as an agent need to be thinking about is your digital identity. You do not want an email address that is me@century21.com or me@intero.com or me@homesandgardens.com. You don't want that. I've had Robert@soldbyrobert.com since dinosaurs roamed the earth. I mean, as soon as you could buy a URL, I owned it. I own a ton of them. I own robertwhitelaw.com, soldbyrobert.com, soldinlosgatos.com, soldinmorganhill.com, soldintexas.com for that period of time where I thought I was going to relocate to Texas. I own a ton of them, right? So find one that works for you and go with that and own your own digital identity. So if you change offices, people can still reach out to you. People can still get in contact with you. And also, if you're keeping all of your contacts, all of your buyers, all of your sellers on some piece of digital equipment that is owned by your brokerage, well, what happens when you quit? Now, granted, you'll have a local copy, but they'll have a copy too. You see where I'm going? You want to make sure you're being smart about how you connect things up. So, if you're an agent, figure out what it is you want, what it is you need. If you feel like you need training, well, great. That doesn't mean you should be paying a monthly fee for it. It means that you might want to focus on offices that have a reputation for providing excellent training and simply be willing to pay for those trainings on a as I sign up for them basis. And also keep in mind, you can get great training without ever getting it through a brokerage firm. There are tons of resources. Go to realtor.org. You'll be a member of the association. There are tons of trainings that you get certifications from. That's the way to go, not the necessarily broker done stuff. All right, so that's for agents. And it's all about just being a smart consumer, right? And just not let people charge you for stuff. And in terms of commission rate, if you're a brand spanking new agent, if you came to me as a brand spanking new agent, two things would have to get satisfied. We'd have a chat and I'd try to decide whether or not you're a moron. If you're a moron, I'm not going to put you in my office. That's just the way life is. If you're not a moron and you seem to have a good ethical background, you want to do well, you seem aggressive in terms of wanting to do things, I hate to say it, but my way, which is more focused on the client, great, I'll bring you on board, but I'm probably going to ask for a 75-25 split. I'm not going to charge you anything else. I'm not going to say you have to pay me money, but before you're going to get a better split, you have to prove that that you have the ability to get transactions going, that you have the ability to work with people and get them done. And also because for those first few transactions, I'm not going to let you do them by yourself. I'm going to be looking over your shoulder a lot more than normal. In fact, I might, if you want me to, and I strongly encourage this for my new agents, I'm going to go with you to your listing appointment. I'll sit quietly and just answer questions that might come up as you're going. but I want to be there. I want to see how it goes in a live environment. Okay. Let's pretend you're not looking to be a 24/7 agent. You might take on clients now and then because you feel like it. Let's say you are doing this as an investment thing and you're going to need to put your broker's license somewhere. You have several choices. You're probably going to have choices from agents, brokers like me, who are independent, very relatively small shops in comparison to the bigger folks, but also online brokerages. And not only will they not charge you a percent in a lot of cases, oftentimes they will simply charge you a flat fee per transaction. So in other words, you sell $1 million house, you're not going to be divvying up your commission with them. You're going to only be paying them $300, right? Or whatever the amount is. You can absolutely find tons of those. Now in California, you can't swing a dead cat without finding a virtual online brokerage firm that you can work with. It may be different in other states where markets aren't quite as nuts as here, but I'm willing to bet that there are online brokerages for just about all of those. But in those cases, you need to understand, and in any case where you don't go with the big names, you need to understand that you need to completely own getting out there and generating your own business. I would still argue I've never seen none of the big businesses I connected myself with ever got me any business. At least I can say none of them handed me a referral and say, call this person because they're a referral. Never got one of those. But I'm not sure how many deals I got because I was associated with, say, a Century 21 office or some big name office. So is there a value that I can't measure that might be in there? I suppose. But in any event, you should still be able to get connected with a franchise name without coughing up a monthly amount. It should be strictly a commission based on they make money when you make money. I'm a big supporter of the concept of a brokerage should have a vested interest in your success. And if they're charging you a desk fee and other random baloney fees every month, that's not being invested in your success. That's being invested in you coughing up money. Being invested in your success is taking steps to help you get transactions going. So if your brokerage only gets paid when you succeed, that's a much better model than, regardless of whether you're succeeding or not, you're bleeding money into a brokerage firm. Okay. I think that at the very least, Danny is a happy guy right now. So Danny, it's all for you, buddy. You've been around for a super long time, and I appreciate it. And over the years, you and I have had some great conversations. You have shared some amazing news stories, a few that have also made their way onto the show. So here's my thank you to Danny for reminding me that this would be a good topic to discuss today. I hope you all got something out of it. And as always, the goal is to leave you with far more in value than you invested in time. Really hope we've managed to get that one going today. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you all next time.